Moon's hands began to tremble. This wasn't right. The voice was explaining the basics of the first sanctuary as if he belonged here, as if he had the same right to be present as the awakened students around him. May your journey be prosperous. Welcome, once more, to the first sanctuary. The presence faded, leaving behind a profound silence that was quickly filled by excited chatter. Students began comparing notes, discussing what they'd heard, marveling at their surroundings. Moon stood frozen, his mind racing. An error. It had to be an error. Some terrible glitch in whatever system governed the summoning process. Instead of being cleanly rejected and sent home, he'd slipped through a crack, been overlooked by the mechanism that should have filtered him out. His breathing quickened, and panic crept up his spine like ice water. He had no class or abilities. He had no way to defend himself if he left the safety of this base, and people couldn't just leave the first sanctuary whenever they wanted on their first visit. There was a minimum duration, usually a week, before the return portals would accept a new arrival. He'd have to survive here for an entire week with nothing but his baseline human capabilities. No system interface to track his health, no skills to call upon, no power to protect him, and no food to eat. Moon's eyes moved around the courtyard. The spirit's voice returned with a final instruction, saying he could check his status by thinking or uttering the word status. It was common knowledge. Every child knew this from the moment they learned about awakeners, but hearing it directly from the spirit made Moon respond instinctively, despite knowing he had no class to display. Status, he whispered. Light coalesced before his eyes, forming into a translucent panel that only he could see. It listed his name as Moon. His race was human, his class was classless. His level was 1 at 0%, he had 1 life. Strength 10, Agility 12, Constitution 12, Mana 15. Attribute points 0, skills none. A talent called Grim Reaper. And a class skill class slot at 0 out of 1. Moon stared at the panel, his mind grinding to a halt. How could he have a status while being a null? Nulls were rejected by the system entirely. They didn't get panels. They didn't get stats. They certainly didn't get talents or class skills. Was something wrong with the awakening orb? Had it malfunctioned? Maybe his awakening hadn't failed after all. Before he could process this revelation, the world dissolved again. This time, Moon appeared inside a massive base with huge, sturdy walls. Other students materialized nearby, filling what appeared to be some sort of plaza. The architecture around was solid, defensible, unmistakably designed for safety. Moon looked around, trying to orient himself, when a girl with big round eyes and 2 ponytails approached him. "Hey, I'm kind of new here. I just entered the first sanctuary. Can I form a team with you?" She looked at Moon with an expectant gaze. Moon glanced at her for a second, his thoughts racing. "Sure, but can you give me a moment? I'm just sorting out some things." The relief on her face was immediate. "Oh, thank you. Yes, of course, take your time." She stepped back slightly, her eyes darting around the base with undisguised curiosity. Moon turned his attention back to his status panel, focusing on the entries that made no sense. It said his class was classless. It described him as an anomaly, free from the restrictions of the system, able to learn any skill from any class based on comprehension or from fruitful encounters. His breath caught. His eyes moved to the next entry. It listed a talent called Grim Reaper. It said he gained 5 times the lives from the beasts he killed. Moon's mind reeled. Lives were the currency of progression in the first sanctuary. When awakeners killed monsters, they absorbed a portion of the creature's essence, gaining what the system called lives that could be used for evolving skills, trading, and most importantly to live. The first sanctuary had multiple zones. In some zones, once you die there, you will lose a single life. But there were other zones where, once you die, you lose tens or even hundreds of lives. 5 times the normal amount wasn't just good. That was extraordinary. His hands shook as he focused on the final entry. It was class slot, 0 out of 1. It said he could mirror a class he saw in action for 24 hours, gain that class's class skills depending on his level, and turn them to real skills based on his understanding and comprehension. Moon read it twice, then a third time. He could copy classes, not permanently but for 24 hours at a time, and if he understood the borrowed skills well enough, he could make them permanent. Real skills that would persist even after the mirrored class expired. His failure to awaken hadn't been a failure at all. It had been something else entirely. Something the awakening orb couldn't recognize because it fell outside the standard. He was an anomaly. If you enjoyed this chapter, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of the story.